The restaurant was softly lit, the golden glow of chandeliers reflecting off polished wood and crystal glasses. The gentle hum of conversation seemed to fade into the background for Amelia as she sat alone in a corner booth, her hands nervously twisting the edges of her napkin. She had chosen the place for its quiet corners, hoping nobody would notice her. Yet every laugh, every couple sharing a toast, reminded her of how precarious her own life had become. She glanced at the menu without really seeing it, the words blurring together as her mind raced through the bills that had piled up on the kitchen counter at home. Rent overdue, utilities threatening to shut off, her son's school fees looming. Each one felt like a hammer striking her chest. Her stomach knotted with anxiety, but she forced herself to order, telling the waitress, "Just water, thank you." It was easier to maintain a calm facade than admit that she couldn't even afford a meal. Her gaze drifted to a small napkin on the table. In a sudden, desperate impulse, she grabbed a pen from her purse and scribbled a single word, "Help." She folded it carefully, hiding it beneath her glass, as though the napkin itself could carry a message to someone who might understand. Her fingers trembled slightly, betraying the calm she tried to maintain. She took a slow breath, her chest tightening with the knowledge that if no one noticed, she would be left alone with her fear again. The clinking of silverware and the faint smell of roasted meat and fresh bread filled the air, yet Amelia felt completely isolated in the crowd. Her mind wandered to her son's innocent smile, the way he had asked for spaghetti tonight, oblivious to the storm she was facing. She clenched her fists under the table, holding herself together, but the anxiety bubbled up like water threatening to boil over. If only someone would notice, if only someone could see the silent plea she had hidden in the napkin. Across the room, Ethan Blake leaned back in his chair at table 15, surveying the restaurant with an almost casual air. To the casual observer, he appeared absorbed in his glass of wine, but his eyes missed nothing. The way a woman nervously fiddled with her napkin in the corner caught his attention immediately, not because he was looking for trouble, but because something in her energy felt urgent, fragile, and out of place in such a relaxed setting. He watched discreetly as the waitress approached her table, noting the slight tremor in the woman's hands and the tension in her shoulders. Amelia folded the napkin beneath her glass, her movements careful yet anxious, a subtle cry for help almost invisible to everyone else. Most people would have ignored it, chalked it up to nerves or clumsiness. But Ethan had a habit of noticing details others missed, tiny signals that revealed far more than appearances. As the waitress reached her table, Amelia forced a polite smile, her voice soft and measured as she asked for water. Ethan caught the fleeting glance she cast toward the napkin and the almost imperceptible fold that suggested something hidden beneath. Curiosity sparked, not just about what she had written, but about the story behind it. There was a desperation in her gesture that resonated with him in a way he rarely experienced. He considered intervening quietly, letting the waitress simply walk away, and then decided he couldn't. Something in her demeanor demanded action. Slipping out of his chair with the kind of quiet confidence that came from years of commanding rooms and boardrooms alike, he moved toward her table. He was careful not to startle her, but his presence alone shifted the energy of the space, subtle yet undeniable. Amelia felt a shadow fall across her table and looked up, startled, her pulse quickening. Ethan's gaze was calm but penetrating, and he gestured toward the napkin with a slight nod. "Excuse me," he said, his voice low enough that only she could hear. "I think someone might need to see this." Her heart thudded in her chest, a mix of fear and incredulity. Was this real? Had someone actually noticed her silent plea? Ethan's attention made the room feel simultaneously vast and intimate, the noise of the restaurant fading into the background. For the first time, Amelia realized that her desperate message hadn't gone unseen, and that help might be closer than she had dared to imagine. Ethan eased into the seat across from Amelia, careful not to crowd her, yet close enough that his presence was unmistakable. She instinctively shrank slightly, a wave of apprehension mixed with cautious curiosity washing over her. His tailored suit and quiet confidence made him appear untouchable, yet his eyes, calm, observant, almost gentle, held none of the judgment she expected from someone so obviously powerful. "I noticed your note," he said softly, nodding toward the folded napkin she had tried so carefully to hide. "I don't usually involve myself in strangers' lives, but something about this, I couldn't ignore it." His voice was measured, but there was an intensity beneath it, a sincerity that made her stomach twist with both fear and relief. Amelia's hands trembled as she clutched her glass, the water suddenly tasting metallic in her mouth. I didn't think anyone would see it, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Shame and desperation warred in her chest. It's been a hard few months. I didn't know how else to ask for help. Ethan leaned slightly forward, not pressing but conveying presence. You don't have to explain everything to me right now, he said. But I want you to know, no one should ever feel like they have to hide their struggle, even in a crowded room. There was a weight to his words, the kind that only comes from someone who's seen enough of the world to recognize both pain and resilience. She looked down at the napkin, then back at him, uncertainty etched across her face. I don't even know where to start, she admitted, tears welling in her eyes. It feels like everything is collapsing, and I don't have anyone to turn to. Ethan reached out subtly, just enough to convey reassurance without overstepping, and gave a small, encouraging nod. Start anywhere. Start with what you need most. I can help, but only if you let me. You don't have to handle this alone. For the first time in weeks, Amelia felt a spark of hope. It was fragile, almost frightening in its intensity, but undeniable. Someone who could actually make a difference, was sitting across from her, willing to notice her, willing to help, willing to see her struggle without judgment. Her breath caught in her throat, and she realized that sometimes, reaching out in small, desperate ways could lead to the kind of change she had thought impossible. Amelia sat frozen for a moment, still processing the fact that a stranger, someone so undeniably powerful, was offering her more than just sympathy. Ethan's presence was steady, reassuring, yet there was a subtle urgency in his eyes, as if he genuinely wanted to help her before life's pressures crushed her further. Let me make this simple, he said gently, his voice carrying a calm authority that immediately demanded trust. I can help you with the bills, with your rent, anything that's keeping you awake at night. You don't have to struggle alone anymore. He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. But you have to promise me something. Don't hide your needs again. Don't write another secret plea on a napkin. Amelia's throat tightened, tears welling up, but this time they were not just from fear or desperation. They were the tears of relief, of hope finally finding its way in. I don't know what to say, she whispered, her voice breaking. I've been trying so hard to hold it together. I didn't think anyone would even notice, let alone help. Ethan offered a small, warm smile, the kind that made the air between them feel lighter. Say nothing for now, just accept it. That's the first step. He reached subtly toward the napkin and picked it up, smoothing the folds. This little note, it's a reminder. Sometimes, the smallest cries for help are the most important. Amelia let out a shaky laugh, partly from disbelief, partly from the relief washing over her like a tide she hadn't thought possible. For the first time in months, she felt a flicker of control returning. The panic that had weighed on her shoulders seemed to loosen just slightly. I don't know how I can ever repay you, she said quietly, her hands folded tightly in her lap. You don't have to, Ethan replied. Just take care of yourself, of your son. That's more than enough. He stood, offering a polite nod as he prepared to leave, but not before adding, and remember, the world isn't always as cold as it seems. Sometimes, help comes when you least expect it, like at table 15. Amelia watched him walk away, her chest still heavy with emotion but her heart lighter than it had been in months. The restaurant around her had returned to its normal rhythm, the conversations and clinking silverware resuming, but for her, everything had shifted. Hope had arrived, quietly, unexpectedly, and she realized that life might finally have room for a fresh start. She folded the napkin carefully, this time as a keepsake, a symbol of the moment someone saw her struggle and chose to act, reminding her that even in her darkest hours, light could find its way in.